Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Karen Snyman, Student Entrepreneurship Specialist at Nelson Mandela University, and I'd like to welcome you this afternoon. I'd like to wish you warm African greetings. If you are listening this afternoon from other parts other than South Africa, please do put in our chat group. We'd like to get a sense of where on the continent you are watching this webinar from. Now, this event is a collaboration between the Mandela International Office, the Alumni Relations Office, and the Madiba's Entrepreneurship Hub situated in the Department of Student Governance and Development. Now, in our pursuit of our vision at Nelson Mandela University to be a dynamic African university, which is recognized for its leadership in generating cutting-edge knowledge for a sustainable future, we annually celebrate Africa Week, including Africa Day, which was yesterday, the 25th of May, with a diverse and vibrant program involving our students and staff. Now, over the years, our Africa Week program brought this to life by focusing on African history, literature, culture, art, music, food, sport, and current events through exhibitions, talks, lectures, food days, and concerts. And I must be honest, I particularly miss the vibe on campus because normally we would be invited to taste traditional foods from all over Africa, and you'll find women wearing their doek, like we would say in South Africa, or their turbans in their beautiful African traditional way from the countries, and different kinds of music and drum beats on campus. So unfortunately, due to situations, due to the pandemic, our events are held online. And the focus of Africa Week this year is at the university is focusing on entrepreneurship, politics, governance, history, and knowledge production on the African continent. And this webinar particular focuses on entrepreneurship on the African continent. And we will hear from different dynamic young alumni this afternoon. They're going to share with us the amazing experiences with us. Now, entrepreneurship is part of Sustainable Development Goals, and particular the Sustainable SDG Goal number 8, which focuses on decent work and economic growth. Now, through teaching, learning, research, innovation, and engagement, Nelson Mandela University aims to contribute to the implementation of achievement of this Sustainable Development Goal. I would like to immediately hand over to Paul Geswind, who is our Director, Alumni Relations, who will introduce each international panelist and just share with you the role of his office. Thank you, Paul.
Good afternoon, everybody. As mentioned, my name is Paul Geswind. I represent the Alumni Relations Office. It's fantastic that we have so many staff members, students, as well as graduates here and members of the public. Many of our staff are also alumni, and of course, our students are future alumni. For us, we are so glad that we are able to cooperate with our colleagues from the international office as well as from student governance today, because the whole issue of entrepreneurship is so important, because the world of work is changing and it impacts on our alumni as well as on the students who are going to be future individuals seeking either future opportunities, and within a changing global environment, entrepreneurship, of course, is one of those options to be investigated. Now, we are glad that with Africa Week taking place, that we were able to connect with alumni from Zimbabwe, from Botswana, from Namibia, as well as from Zambia. And I will use this opportunity just to briefly introduce them, but to note that our alumni represent the global footprint of the university. So although we're talking about the continent today, these young alumni are representative of a greater global footprint. And we are so glad, because just by them being present today, they are also giving back to their alma mater. Let's start off with our very first speaker who will be introduced. And this lady, Mpho Chitaika, is from Botswana. And she studied BCom, Computer Science and Information Systems. and is the founder of VGB Cybersecurity. Her company basically deals with consultancy, advisory, and training that works with organizations to help them assess their cybersecurity maturity posture. And they also recommend world-class cybersecurity recommendations and solutions in the space that they are. She's got many firsts in her country with her certification, and we really look forward to her talking about her experiences and how she basically is operating within her discipline as well. Can I move over to our second speaker this morning? This young gentleman, Busa Shimankirari, he is from Zimbabwe, but now he's very interesting because he's a former chairperson of the Student Alumni Society as well, or one of the executive committee members there. And he studied law, but he is the founding director of a company, Burbo Refurbishers and Contractors, and the co-founder of Wastemate Zimbabwe. Now, he calls himself a driven serial entrepreneur, but he's got a legal background. So that will also be interesting to hear about his involvement in so many different areas that he's involved with. And I must also say that his involvement in, for example, the affordable housing industry is one that's, of course, an issue within our own country and on the continent, and in some cases even internationally. So we look forward to hearing from him as well. So thank you. The next person that we're looking at, Lukonga Landunda. He is from Zambia. I need to mention that this alumnus also received the Rising Star Award from the university a few years ago. Now, Lukonga studied BSc in IT. He is a startup ecosystem builder and the executive director and co-founder of Bongo Hive, an award-winning innovation and technology hub based in Lusaka, Zambia. And they are changing the landscape of innovation and entrepreneurship in the region. Perhaps I also need to mention this, that they have steered Bongo Hive to nearly 1,500 startups and MSCI small medium enterprises, and they're harnessing over $2 million in resources. So we also look forward to hearing from Lukonga because his specialist industry, these are the times during Corona that the digital space have been driven forward at a great speed. So that's Lukonga from Zambia, ladies and gentlemen. And then lastly, we have Maria Shipapo, and she's from Namibia. So now we've had most of the disciplines as well, and she's a lady with a BSc Chemistry and Geology, as well as an honors in Geology. And she is the CEO and co-founder of MIST Agricultural Laboratory, an agricultural lab based in Rundu, Namibia. Now, she's also the chairperson of the Data and Research for Sustainability Association. This is a non-profit multidisciplinary research association. And so there's a whole range of alumni that we have here today from different disciplines and focusing on different areas that will give us rich feedback. So thank you to our alumni for making themselves available. We really appreciate it and proud of your achievements. I hand over back to Karen. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much, Paul Geswind, Director of the Alumni Office. And if you're an alumni listening in today, please make contact with Paul should you wish to join the alumni or make donations even towards the alumni of fund of the university. Now this afternoon, we will hear, as Paul has said, a diverse group of young people this afternoon. And what I wanted to say is that, did you know that Africa boasts of the world's highest entrepreneurship and female entrepreneurship rates? And however, while entrepreneurial potential is high, the contribution to economic growth, however, has been limited. And that speaks to this SDG 8 of which, that we will focus on. And now, according to the African Development Bank, 22% of Africa's working age population are starting businesses. So this is the highest entrepreneurship rate in the world. So that tells me something, that entrepreneurship is really growing in Africa, on our continent. As Africans, we have, thrived on oral tradition of storytelling, and where older generation impart knowledge to the younger generation, and so it is carried on. But this afternoon, you know, we will hear from the younger generation imparting their knowledge and experiences with us. So this afternoon, I will introduce them to you as they will speak. So first up, we have the lovely young Mpho Chitaika from Botswana. She's the founder of VGB Cybersecurity in Botswana. And this afternoon, Mpho, we would like to welcome you to share your story with us. Thank you so much. Mpho, you are live.
Thank you, Karen. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mpho Chitaika, and I am a Nelson Mandela University alumni based in Botswana. I'm just going to share my screen, and please let me know when it comes up.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mpho. You're welcome to share your story.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Karen. And let me first start by taking this opportunity to thank Nelson Mandela University for this opportunity to be one of the guest speakers today. I'm going to briefly start by talking about my professional highlights, because that's where it really started for us as an organization, because we started, we're a fairly new company. We started late 2020. So as mentioned, I graduated from the CSNIS department in 2007. And before I had even graduated, March of the same year, I got hired with PricewaterhouseCoopers. Luckily, a friend of mine was working there and they were looking for systems auditors at the time. And I didn't even know what a systems auditor was. But anyway, I got called for an interview. And as fate would have it, the person who was interviewing me at the time, who was the head of the department, was a fellow Nelson Mandela University alumni. So I got hired, I got the job, I moved up the ranks up until I was a senior consultant with them. I was with them for about almost 5 years. And this is where I learned of the CISA certification, Certified Information Systems Auditor. I then moved and joined the Postal Services Botswana Post as the IT security manager. And at the time, the field was still referred to as IT security, which is really your network security, your patching, your antivirus type of service. I only had a 4-year stint with them. I then moved to the biggest diamond mining company in the world by value, which is the Botswana Diamond Company, in 2016 as the information security manager. Now, this is where I really honed my craft and learned and did a lot of research around information security and cybersecurity. That's when I further went on to study and certify as an information systems manager, as well as a certified data protection security engineer. And at the time when I certified, I didn't even know that ISACA would hail me as the first Botswana to hold all these 3 prestigious certifications. And for those who don't know, ISACA is an association in the States for auditors, cybersecurity professionals, as well as governance, risk, and compliance professionals. I stayed with Botswana for about 4 years, and at the time, we were about 5,000 employees, and 2,000 of those were contractors or suppliers. And these were only South African consultants or international consultants. That's when it hit me. I had the epiphany, because I put out a tender and I was looking for cybersecurity consultants locally, and there were none. That's when I decided to start my own company, VGB Cybersecurity, which is, there's a lag in the slides, which is VGB Cybersecurity, Votem Group Botswana. VGB Cybersecurity is a subsidiary of Votem Group Botswana. I'm just waiting on the slide. I don't want to lose you. Karen, please let me know if it has changed on your side, because it hasn't changed on my side.
It hasn't changed, Paul.
Okay.
I think you can carry on. You know, we will follow you.
Okay. So, all right. No, it has changed on my side. Thank you for that. So VGB Cybersecurity, we're a consultancy company offering cybersecurity maturity assessments for companies. This is where we do an assessment of their security posture and identify where their threat landscape, where their gaps are, and help them develop cybersecurity strategies to address those gaps. And then we also offer training and awareness on what cybersecurity is. We offer professional certifications such as certified ethical hacking, courses for police, etc. And then we also have products, specific cybersecurity and artificial intelligence products that do monitoring of environments and networks. Our vision is to then set up like a huge center of excellence, cybersecurity center of excellence. It will be the first one in the country where we'll have a security operations center that will be basically monitoring different critical organizations on a 24/7 basis. We'll also have a research and development unit that will do specific research to cybersecurity, as well as a training academy, hopefully, to train these professionals and university students and anybody on what cybersecurity is. The other plan is also to go national in terms of setting up a countrywide operations center to service the whole country, as well as go regionally, hopefully, in the next couple of years, and also have a local company running conferences and hackathons, because most of the time these are done by international companies. Now, the challenges that I've faced is that there's very limited understanding of what information or cybersecurity is in this country. I've actually set up social media pages where I'm giving free awareness, training and awareness on what cybersecurity is to your layman on the street, to professionals, to your boards and C-suites and organizations, because you think that most of them understand what it is, but some of them don't even know and are even shy to say they don't understand what cybersecurity is. The other challenge is that because of the lack of understanding, there's been a slow uptake of our services. And when I go out there and present to different heads in organizations, you can literally see that there's a culture of, you know, if I give you this work, this tender, what's in it for me? We have to literally read between the lines. So it's been slow in terms of our progress. And another thing, as I noted, that we want to set up that center of excellence where we'll operate. It's a very expensive exercise, so we don't have the funds to set that up, and we're currently looking for those funds. And there's also another challenge, is that there's a requirement here in Botswana. When you approach a company and you register with a company as a supplier, you need to have had 3 prior references or clients. And as a startup company, where are you going to get those references from? You're just starting to operate. I want to bring you to the slide as I speak to the opportunities that I've had. There was a research done with regards to cyber skills in the country compared to other countries in Africa as well as globally. And I want to draw your attention to the Certified Information Security Manager certification. And as you can see, there's only 13 of us in the whole country, which is staggering. And this, anyway, worked as a plus for me because I'm the only 100% Motswana female-owned company in the country. But at the same time, although, you know, there's been a slow increase in support of local companies, the government is really pushing to get companies such as ourselves to be supported by most of these organizations, even in the private sector. And because this is such a scarce skill, I was fortunate enough to be chosen to be part of the Ministry of Transport and Communication and the regulator to set up the Botswana National Cybersecurity Strategy. Lastly, my word of advice to students currently, once you finish graduating, you find yourself unemployed, don't be afraid to volunteer or intern in organizations or companies in the same field that you like to get into or start a business in, because right now you have a lot of theory in terms of your learning, but when you go into the work environment, you'll learn a lot of relevant skills such as communication skills, project management skills, and overall how to be a team player, as well as sales skills, because that's what you really need in order to market your company. And then constantly upgrade yourself. Like, we're in the 4th industrial revolution, and if you're in a technology company such as ourselves, technology is very dynamic. So you need to keep abreast with all the changes that are happening in the market. And then if you want to market your company on social media, it's very critical to develop a social media strategy. I remember when we started, I was just posting for the sake of posting. But when I actually sat down and started, evaluating what audience am I trying to target here? What am I trying to achieve? Am I trying to increase sales? Am I trying to get engagement? That's when things really changed for us. So it's very important to have a social media strategy. And then lastly, it's very important to have a mentor. I was fortunate enough because my husband has been in business and is a businessman for the past 20 years now. So he has been my mentor and he has really held my hand throughout the journey and made things easier for me. And with that, I'd like to say thank you to everybody and thank you, Karen.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shipapo. That was really, really, it just your story is so amazing, to think that, as a woman, that you have really entered a space and you've really owned that space and you've really, really seen an opportunity. Makes me think of, in lockdown, we use the term, seeing an opportunity in a crisis. And that is really what entrepreneurship is about, identifying an opportunity in a crisis. Our next speaker, thanks, Shipapo.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah. To those who are watching out there, please feel free to post your questions you should have to any of the panelists this afternoon in the chats, and we will try and answer them. And so please just make sure, and also tell us from which country you are from, so that we can see where you are posting from. Thank you so much. Our next speaker, Busa Shimankirari, he's from Zimbabwe, and he's the founding director of Burble Refurbishers and Contractors and co-founder of Waste Mate Zimbabwe Private Limited, and he calls himself a serial entrepreneur. And if you hear his story, he will tell you that he has a law degree and he's working in construction now, but also, when we chatted, he told me that he was a student entrepreneur. So interestingly enough, I'm sure there's a lot of student entrepreneurs out there this afternoon having a listen to our story. So maybe you should have some questions coming through there. So thanks, Busa. We look forward to hearing your story.
All right, thank you very much there, Karen. Hello, everybody. My name is Busa Shimankirari, as she said, and I am a serial entrepreneur, as she says. And I graduated LLB Law at NNU in 2014. So I'm going to share my screen now and just present you guys with a pretty simple group of slides, but I'm going to talk to you about kind of my personal journey and a little bit about my businesses and what we do. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see my screen yet, can you?
Not yet. Maybe it will take some time to come.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Okay, here we are. So as I mentioned, I'm sure you guys can see now. Is there correct? Hello?
We can see your screen. Thank you, Busa.
Okay, great. Yes, so my name is Busa Shimankirari, as I said, class of 2014, graduated with an LLB law degree from Nelson Mandela University, and I'm going to tell you about my journey through entrepreneurship. So whilst I was at NNMU, I was also a Student Alumni Society Vice Chairperson in 2013, and I think that's something that Paul mentioned earlier. I was also a junior lecturer in 2015 in the Law Faculty Society, and in the law faculty itself. And during that period, I was running a small bicycle rental business along with a partner of mine, my friend, who was doing his honors in marketing at the same time. At the same time, I was also hosting a number of events. I did one, I think, actually during this Africa Week in 2015 with a friend of mine who's back in Zimbabwe with me now. So during that period, we had found some opportunities and some gaps at the university, which we're exploiting, which was the bicycle rental business, as well as creating events specifically targeting African students. After 2015, I moved back to Zimbabwe, and I decided to dive into my core businesses in construction and waste management. And I'm saying my core businesses because there are a number of businesses I was running on the side, like I mentioned, the bicycles, as well as some medical supplies. In construction, I started a company called Burble Refurbishers and Contractors. We're now trading mostly as Burble Construction. And I actually registered that business in 2013 while I was still in South Africa, but I registered here in Zimbabwe. That's because while I was in South Africa, I actually did a bit of work for my landlord who held multiple properties. And I used to work with him on summer breaks just to make a little income to be able to pay for a vacation. I managed to fly myself to America a couple of times actually during that period. And that company, Burbo Refurbishers and Contractors Construction, we specialize in low-income housing. And since returning to Zimbabwe in 2015, we've had some lucrative contracts with a number of banks like National Building Society here and CABS, as well as and in that industry, we've built quite a few homes in the low income space. And that's where I realized, look, this is a problem. And we've also started working on our own mortgage model in the informal sector space using a different articulation of credit risk assessment. We're now layering normal financial credit risk assessments with a psychometric test. But day to day, Burbo Construction is doing commercial projects and general residential construction projects, as we do our thing. In the waste management space, through WasteMade Zimbabwe, which I opened in 2016, a year after returning to Zimbabwe, we specialize in private waste collection, in consultancy and recycling. We've had the privilege of working with organizations such as the UN, under the International Organization Migration, where during COVID, we were actually collecting all the PPE and all of that hazardous medical waste and incinerating it. And we were doing it for every border post in the country. We then also consulted for the city of Harare in dealing with waste management and for another company called Clean City Zimbabwe. You might see quite a lot of these things on my LinkedIn and our company profiles. Through that industry, I managed to meet a bunch of to penetrate a few other industries, such as the agricultural sector, and in particularly in tobacco, and in working in sustainability measures for them. In 2018, I personally got selected for the Mandela Fellowship Washington Fellowship Program to the United States. And that program really helped me sharpen my business acumen and put a lot of things in perspective regarding actually doing business in Africa in particular. I also acquired a qualification in sustainable supply chain management, which helped me go even further with both my businesses in construction and waste management. And so apart from learning how useless an umbrella is in the windy city in Port Elizabeth, and also coming out with my law degree. My law degree also gave me some very critical skills. And one of those was actually creating a process that works for me. And that process is passion, opportunity, and execution. So it's interesting that Mpo, as we're listening to how she was articulating her vision and also what she's been through, you can see that she's passionate and she saw an opportunity and she executed. And the thing is, as an entrepreneur, you can enter this cycle at any different point because everyone's journey is different. Personally, for me, I entered through the passion space. I was extremely passionate about the housing crisis and about the waste management issues on the continent. There are over 23 million Africans who are just in need of decent housing. It's no secret that there are a lot of slums in South Africa, in Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya. And I've actually had the privilege of visiting some of these slums and trying to figure out my model. In the waste management space, it's less than 54% of African countries have any solid waste management plans or policies in place. This is, again, no secret. It's something that we've seen all over. So taking my passion, I managed to hone that and drive it towards opportunities in my industry. And that's the next thing on our arrow there. And I found opportunities and ways in which I could penetrate it, which was figuring out a credit model for the mortgage space, which was figuring out a policy development way for the waste management space, and creating firms that address those issues. So I got stuck into it and I just tried it. I got my hands dirty, literally got my hands dirty in the waste management space. And this process is a constant thing that you go through and reassess throughout your journey as an entrepreneur. And through it, I've been using it for the last 7 years that I've been in business. And the process requires a lot of discipline, endurance, self-awareness, as well as personal responsibility. And those are things you're going to get going through your entire process, from passion, opportunity, through into your execution. Another critical element, I would say, which is very important, or a skill to get, is to figure out how to create a good team and surround yourself with the right people. And I know that sounds relatively cliche, but it's so important to be able to do business with people who want to do business with you, to do business with individuals who want to work with you and share your vision and where you think you want to take your business and your institutions. I've actually been blessed and lucky to be able to have that skill to select the right people to work for my organization. Even though we're relatively small, we've got a small team of at least about 12 of us that are doing the technical work day in, day out. But we've got a much bigger team, and we're doing our contract work of over 50 to 60 workers at a time out and about in the field. And one of the things that you learn in business, or you need to realize in business, is that as an entrepreneur, you need to show up for yourself day in, day out. It is important to show up for yourself, including even during my days of doing my law degree. That was my mantra, show up for yourself so that you can get the degree. And the things about, I also picked up from Nelson Mandela University was that I was at a university, so I was there on scholarship. And I was privileged to be there on scholarship, and I didn't actually know the institution before I arrived there. But being at a university named after one of the greatest icons on the planet who have ever lived, I was always inspired and kind of called to observe the qualities of Madiba, and I was always in awe of his legacy. And I was inspired to build my own legacy. So building your legacy is actually the tagline for Burbo Construction. You're very welcome to visit our website there and kind of see the work that we've done. There's also a video that explains a lot of the things that we're doing day in, day out. And we're trying to penetrate the region beyond Zimbabwe. I've actually had a few trips in Namibia as well, and had the pleasure of seeing that market. So I've been inspired to build my own legacy as well as building the legacy of others. And as an African, we're called to carry that torch and to shine a light on our continent through innovation, through social entrepreneurship, through ingenuity to build a better Africa and a better tomorrow. And that is it from me on my side.
You're muted.
Sorry?
Thank you, Busa, for those inspiring words. My sincere apologies, with these online things, but thank you, Busa, for those inspiring words. Indeed, we should bring the light to Africa. We should be the light bringers. And I'm so inspired by all of you today. And really, your words ring true for every entrepreneur. Passion, it needs to have passion, entrepreneurship. It needs to start with identifying that opportunity and taking it further than identifying that opportunity and really taking it to execution. And listening to you, both of you this morning, and Paul and Busa, and from the others, it can be done. So as Nelson Mandela says, it always seems impossible until it is done. And those are the words, which ring true for every entrepreneur. You need to start, you need to execute, and that's where the true challenge lies. So without further ado, I'd like to call on Lukonga to share his story with us. And Lukonga Lindunda is from Zambia, and he's a startup ecosystem builder, executive director and co-founder of Bongo Hive, an award-winning innovation and technology hub based in Lusaka. Thank you, Lukonga. Lukonga, we look forward to hearing your story.
Thank you for the invite. Let me just share my screen. Let me know if you can see it now.
Yes, we can, Lukonga. You may go ahead. Thank you.
Great. So my name is Lukonga. Thank you so much for the invite. I've spoken to students and staff at different levels. Had the opportunity to win a couple of awards at the university, and so it's always a privilege to be able to share my story. So I'm co-founder of Bongo Hive. Bongo Hive is a group of companies. I'll talk a bit about that and the motivation for starting it. I also spent quite a bit of time advising other companies. Over the past year, I've spent quite a bit of time getting some new roles. I advise a bank, one of the fintech startups, and also a client care solutions. It's a company called client care solutions, and also an NGO. So over the past 10 years, gaining experience running my own firm, I also find myself, now advising much larger firms around innovation, entrepreneurship, and also technology. So that's a pretty interesting shift for me at a professional level. Exciting as usual. I'm now doing an MBA with the ALU School of Business. That's an exciting journey. So I'm in all these things of running my own business, advising other businesses. I am also doing my MBA. And so as in my introduction earlier, as I was introduced, there was a mention around an award that I won for the Rising Star Alumni Award in 2017. I was also top of the advancement program in 2002, I believe, both in residence and in the whole program. So it's been an exciting time, and hopefully it inspires students and other people to go above and beyond, and really try and exceed your own expectations. And somehow, awards do follow you. Not that you should follow awards, but it's always good when people are able to recognize you. And a couple of other things that we have won as a company in terms of innovation, entrepreneurship in Zambia and also on the continent. And just goes to show that the work that we are doing in Zambia and in the region is recognized by different types of people. I should mention that some 2 years ago, we hosted Prince Harry on his maiden visit to Zambia, as we were one of the 2 institutions that he visited and spent time with our entrepreneurs. And so there's a lot in my background. When I came to Port Elizabeth, I wasn't quite sure whether I would, focus just on technology or IT or information systems or computer science, or try to marry that with business background. And one of the best decisions I ever made was to marry the technology itself with business. The things that I have learned, I learned at NMMU at that time, and UPE at that time, have really opened doors for me to apply technology to solve problems. And I remember back then, being in class and wondering whether all this coding would be meaningful. But now I find ourselves, and we are doing a lot of the work now, providing such services to companies. And it's always good when you are able to solve a client's problem using technology. So all that coding that you're doing in class one day will make you money, but it's always important to look at it from a perspective of, are you solving problems? And so, when I came back to Zambia, it took me about 2 years to find a stable job. I remember some of the jobs that I got were really enough just for transport money. And I was staying with a couple of relatives all the time. So for 2 years, I remember in some jobs being told that I was overqualified, even though I had studied IT. I found myself doing, things like graphic design, and I don't know if it's still in the curriculum, but those are things that we learned in multimedia design. And I found myself applying a lot of the learnings that we had in the program in finding jobs that, even though they were not completely amazing to me, but I still was able to apply the knowledge that I got in university. And so I found myself working in a number of nonprofits for a couple of years. For 5 years, I was in the nonprofit space, and all we're doing in there was solving for education. And so my job was to introduce technology to see how it could be used to improve the quality of education, both for students and also for learners, and also for teaching. And so my experience the first 5 years of being on a real job was really how to apply the technology to solve problems. And we got to a point where I started asking myself whether we could do it innovatively. So on one end, it's easy for you to buy a computer, for you to, get an internet connection. But the question I had on my mind was, how do we ensure that we have a pipeline of innovation that changes the way things are done? And so that question in itself brought me to a point where, you know, I was not only asking myself, but I was asking the people around me. And that's where the concept of Bongo Hive really came up. It was and is a solution to the challenge, which is that how do you encourage people to become entrepreneurs? How do you encourage innovators to innovate? Where do you find them and how do you harness them? But also, how do you make sure that they are solving for problems that actually exist in the market, and also that you are working with a broad range of stakeholders to ensure that you have a thriving ecosystem? And, you know, we like to give examples of Silicon Valley and all these amazing places where innovators are innovating proactively and every day. We like to think that, you know, this is something we want to create in the region and encourage by working with various stakeholders. So the Bongo Hive group of companies starts off by focusing on entrepreneurship and innovation. We work with entrepreneurs every day through different programs, and then we find ways to invest in them. So Bongo Hive Ventures is a more recent company that we've set up, so we can begin to invest in those amazing ideas on entrepreneurs and help them succeed. And also we have a co-working space called Hive Co-working, where these entrepreneurs and many other entrepreneurs are able to work in a very collaborative environment. We have one of Africa's most successful fintechs, Flutterwave, renting our space amongst other businesses. And Bongo Hive Consult is a consulting, technology and innovation consulting firm that is providing consulting services to a broad range of clients, some of them being the biggest banks on the continent, and also working with your Facebooks and Googles and others to be able to provide solutions that work on the continent and in Zambia as well. So putting all this together really came out from the question, which is, how do we create an environment where people can innovate, where entrepreneurs can succeed? And as we began to do our work, we realized that there were many opportunities that we were seeing in the local and regional market, and therefore we just began to set up other businesses along the way that fill these gaps. I don't run Bongo Hive alone. We are there about 2 other co-founders that I work with who run some of the business units, and goes to show that with collaboration you can really go a long way in solving for Africa's problems, but also that, you know, together, when we work together, we can really grow the opportunities that are available on the continent and in Zambia. So just a few statistics based on our work, the number of entrepreneurs that we've worked with, and also, you know, just the ability to be able to not only work within Zambia, but beyond Zambia. Now we are about 30 full-time employees that are working in the different companies that we've set up. So a lot of learnings, just running the business itself and growing it, but really, and many of the speakers have spoken about various aspects of running a business. I usually like to stress the aspect of first identifying the need in the market, being able to really drill down on the pain point that the customer has, and being able to galvanize the people around you, create the partnerships with friends, to go out there and actually execute, and being able to demonstrate traction over a period of time, and thereby, you know, building a really solid business case and a business that lasts for many years. So now we've just clocked 10 years. We're celebrating our 10th anniversary tomorrow, and so it's been an interesting journey, and I hope it inspires you as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lukonga, for that. Very, you know, I'm so inspired when, you know, just today, just listening to you today, and to see that you've really penetrated, so many young people have penetrated, you know, the digital space, and that amidst, you know, the poverty in Africa, and amidst, you know, the low literacy levels which we experience in Africa, that we are really penetrating the digital innovator in the digital space. With those few words, I'd like to call on Maria, because I see our time is running out. Maria Shipapo, she's our guest from Namibia, and she is the CEO and founder of MIST. Now, MIST is an agricultural lab, or MIST Agricultural Lab, known as MISTAL, an agricultural lab based in Rundu, Namibia. Thanks, Maria. We look forward to hearing your story. We can't hear you. I think you need to unmute, Maria.
Thank you, Karen, for the introduction. I hope I'm loud enough.
Yes.
I will just share my screen already. Yeah, I hope you can see it. Is everybody seeing the screen?
Yes, we can see your screen. Thank you.
Okay. Oops. All right. Okay. So I would like to thank you, Karen, once again for the introduction, and thank you to everyone that is on the webinar today. I'll talk about MIST Agricultural Laboratory and how my Mandela degree has helped me to get there. After graduating, completing my studies in 2014, I came back home. 2015, I had job interviews. There were no jobs on the market for graduate geologists or chemists. Then I started applying for project like tenders and projects. The second half of 2015, we got a really good project, which was for drought relief in one of the regions. It was a government tender, so it kept me motivated. Like, okay, you don't have a job, but there are a lot of other options out there. So that really encouraged me at the beginning. But then 2015 was the year that we got a new president, and he was doing a whole financial reshuffle. And in 2016, the tenders stopped. So luckily, I had been doing a lot of internships when I was doing my studies. So a lot of my work, or at least a lot of my internship experience, gave me in prospecting, like mineral prospecting experience, as well as environmental impact assessment experience. So 2017 was when I was now doing EIAs and EMPs, and also applying for EPLs, meaning clients that wanted to find mineral deposits. They will come to me, a geologist. I would do a desk study for them, produce their maps for them, and then use that application, submit it to Mines and Energy, and they could get the EPLs. So that is how I managed. And in the process, when I was doing environmental impact assessments, when I'd go to communities, what I would do was I collect soil samples and water samples and test those to get a baseline of the conditions before a project is launched. Now, when I'd go to different communities, they were quite interested in how am I testing this soil? What do I get from this information? Can I help them to understand their soil type, understand what they can grow, and not just during the rainy season, but throughout the year? So then I saw, okay, there's a gap here. And also looking at, some of them would apply to, like, send samples to one of the labs that are here in Namibia, but they were not really, the results were not really user friendly, because they'll just send a whole report with numbers and numbers and numbers, and they didn't know what to do with these numbers. So I was like, okay, cool, we can do soil testing, but simplify it for the end user. And then 2016-17 was also the time when there was the fall armyworm invasion sweeping across most of Africa, and we were not immune to it as well. So then I found that another thing that was being affected agriculturally was now the pest invasions. So I was like, okay, maybe we should also try to include with our soil testing services, pest management guidance to our clients, but not necessarily just tell them what pesticide to spray on, but you do find more integrated pest management approaches. So then we started now developing the business model around that. And then as I started going to more farmers events and meetings, I found that another challenge that our farmers and local producers, food producers, were having was having their food products enter the commercial market, especially because when they spray their pesticides or fertilizers, they just spray until the container's finished, or they don't really quantify. Then it ends up elevating like the pesticide residue in the food, and it was not. It made the food undesirable, basically, according to certain standards that were on the market. So then we decided, okay, we need to also include a food department to the lab. So after the whole journey from 2015 until 2017, the business model was developed, the business plan was ready, so we launched Restal in 2018. So it's been a bit of a long journey, especially with a pause in our production in 2020 last year, but we've so far activated our our soil department, our pest management department. We also have a research department that tries to keep in touch with the latest developments in technologies, pest invasions, all these things. So yeah, that's where basically 2018 up to now has been. 2021, we're hoping to launch the food department. By that, we mean the actual food testing department, which is testing for nutritional content, like how much carbohydrates, protein, fats are in the products, so that we can label our clients' food products and they can enter the commercial shelves, because that's another thing that is not in the country. We have a laboratory that does some testing, but most of it is sent to South Africa, and then it elevates the prices for the food producers. So we're just trying to make it a bit simpler for them. If I can share some lessons from our experiences and failures. When we started the lab, we got a huge warehouse in Windhoek, and it was just so costly to run. So if I could share something, it would be start small for budding entrepreneurs or startups. Start small, you have fewer expenses at time, and it's less stress for you. You can focus on your business. Also, hire the right team. I know we might be tempted to work with family, friends, or just people that you're familiar with, but if it's not, it won't always be a good fit. And if it's not, when you realize that these are the wrong people or the wrong person for your team, cut them loose and just hire the right people and fast, because time changes. Like, not necessarily time changes, but you lose so many things are lost if you just wait for, or you're stuck with a weak link, if I can say that. So I would suggest hire the right team, and if you see that there's something wrong, change or cut it out or just move on. Get the right people to work with. And also keep going. I know that it can be a bit motivating, especially for startups like us. If you can surround yourself with people that are trying to do the same thing or start an entrepreneurial circle, that's what we've done. Keep each other motivated and just keep going. The days when you were hoping so much for this project to go through, or for this dinner to be approved, and then you put all your hopes in there and it doesn't work out, and you just want to not see anyone and stay in bed the whole time. But take one day to recover and mourn or whatever, but then just keep going, because the more steps you take, the further you get or you go. And celebrate the small victories. It might be something as simple as you got a new piece of equipment. It's something amazing, and you celebrate it, because a lot of work goes into just producing one or two results. Our successes to date, we have a fully equipped soil department. We're able to produce maps for our clients, which are specifically subsistence farmers. Like the map on the left that you're seeing, we are able to, when we collect soil samples for them, map out the nutrient distribution and tell them where they can focus, like fertilizer applications on, so that they farm efficiently and they're not putting too much nutrients or too much fertilizer and into the soil. Also, we've started a line of indigenous food products, such as you're seeing on the other side of the screen. And we're hoping to, not necessarily hoping, but we'll be launching it across the whole country, hopefully by end of June, beginning of July. And yes, we've also set up really good relationships with the local regional constituency offices, the Office of the Governors of both the Kavango East and the Kavango West region. We try to work, like we said, we try to get grant funding so we can help a lot of our subsistence farmers, and that has been well received by our local policymakers. And we also have developed some relationships as well with the line ministries that we work with. Useful notes for startups or companies that want to start up. First of all, I would advise you to know your value. Research on similar industries or similar companies such as yours, and how, if they've sold theirs, how much they've sold it for, or just understand how much what you're building is worth. Because a lot of times after you've been working so hard and then you've not been getting investors, you just want to sell it and just be over and done with it. But knowing your value will really help in your investor negotiations as well. Also understand your relevant acts and laws in your country. Know your labor laws, know your industry laws. Like, for example, us that are with dealing with chemicals and chemical waste, We need to know things like proper disposal of your chemicals. You need to know the Food Act, packaging, quality assurance, soil testing, all these things we need to know. And we're not yet accredited, we're still in the process, but knowing what is required from you really helps to build your reputation, if I can call it that. And also have your documentation in order, your business plan, company documents. When it comes to negotiating with investors, have a ready-made investment agreement with terms that you're not willing to negotiate on, and terms that you can, you're more flexible on. Things like that really, really helps when you get to the stage of getting big investors or serious investors on your on your radar, on your interested in your company. Otherwise, funding suggestions, I would suggest not starting with a loan. Try to look at grant funding from union agencies, USAID, local competitions as well. Like we have Total, we have Sanlam. I'm sure most African countries do as well. Approach foundations, also websites like Opportunity Desk and Opportunities for Africans. They have a lot of opportunities that you can apply for. They have a lot of conferences, competitions, grants. That would really be helpful in getting you that initial capital to start your projects or your company. We're a team of females management. We have Monica with finance, Sophia who's an agricultural researcher, so food technologist Cecilia, and Nelly who's a statistician. We also have two others that are more on a consulting base, Dia Maria who's an engineer, and Eva who's a microbiologist. So I would like to thank everyone for tuning into this webinar, with special thanks to the Mandela International Office, Alumni Relations Office, Madiba's Entrepreneurship Hub, and Student Governance and Development. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Maria. All four of you this afternoon, really, I'm sure to those who are listening out there, are really astounded at the work that you do in your respective spaces, and really gives me hope for Africa and for its people to see the amazing work that you do. And really, we as Nelson Mandela University are really proud to have you as our alumni, and I'm sure it won't be the end of us hearing your stories, because I'm sure I will definitely invite you back to share some stories with our student entrepreneurs, and I'm sure we would exchange numbers this afternoon. Now the theme of today is, where did your degree take you? Now I have a question, listening to all of you, and that your degrees has taken you in totally different fields from where you started off studying. Now, Busa, for example, has an LLB and ended up in construction. And I'm going to start off by asking Busa, maybe with the first question. You can start off by telling us very briefly, what was the driving force? You studied for a lawyer, and I'm sure, being in our homes where we come from, very traditional homes where our parents expect us to, you studied for a lawyer, so you need to practice as a lawyer. And here the journey took you in a completely different direction. What was the driving force behind that? And has your degree benefited you in the field that you find yourself? Thanks, Busa.
Thank you, Karen. I was muted there. In construction or waste management, both industries, the first thing is I have actually a deep passion for policy design. So when I said I was there in 2015, I was actually doing part of my master's, a labor law master's, and I ended up working with the dean of law right now on some policy for Namibia, and I realized, I realized that I was really more passionate about the proactive side of the legal aspect, as opposed to the law reacting to a problem, but rather I wanted to be part of the policy side of it. So one of the things I discovered was that for me to really understand the problem was to actually get into the businesses. So apart from already having a knack for wanting to be an entrepreneur, I realized, let me understand what the problems are in delivering these houses to the low income space, which I think I've gotten almost to the bottom of, as well as on the waste management side. Why is it such a difficult thing to ensure that waste management occurs really well? And in terms of how the degree has helped me, already that, like I'm saying, I understand how policy works and legal, and it's something that she was just mentioning just now in her presentation, Maria, when she explained, you need to know your legal, right? Understand the laws. So, when we are dealing with hazardous waste, I understand that act pretty well, especially within my background. Understanding how to approach investors, I think I also know how to approach them. Looking at the legalities of a business document, of a memorandum of understanding, an MOU. So I use that in my day-to-day work. I also do the deal structuring for my business. That is what I do day to day, and my law degree comes into play there. The contracts, especially in construction, it's important. It's so important for your contracts to be on point. I can't even stress that so much, because construction is no stranger to litigation. So my legal background really helps me there.
Thanks, Busa. That is so true, and I'm sure your dean would be very proud if she was listening in today of how the journey has taken you, in that direction, but also enabled the business that you are currently in. So, really, thanks for that. Now, I'd like to direct my questions to the two females on our panel this afternoon. They say that Africa's female entrepreneurship rate is amongst the highest in the world. They say that 27% of the female adult population is engaged in early stage entrepreneurial activities. So this means that African women are twice as likely to start a business as women elsewhere in the world. And I would like to quote someone who said that African women represent a vast reservoir of entrepreneurial potential, talents that could unite industrial renaissance and anchor a pathway for sustainable growth. Now, the two of you find yourselves in what I would think would be traditionally male-dominated spaces. One in security, cybersecurity. One in agriculture. Share with us maybe one or two of challenges that you have experienced as a woman in the space, how you overcame them, and just general experiences as a woman in the space. Has it been difficult for you? And sometimes in a space where assertiveness, being assertive, is maybe misinterpreted by men. So Mpho, would you like to lead us in this discussion and in this answer on, and then I would like Maria to respond immediately after you. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Definitely. Before I specialized in cybersecurity, I started in the IT industry, which is extremely male-dominated. As a result, it's been a very challenging journey in that I've been faced with a lot of criticism. Firstly, for being a woman, my expertise has been challenged. Was I hired for the job based on merit, or was it because I was a woman? My face color also doesn't help as well, because that also adds to the whole, was she really employed on merit, or is it because she's light in complexion and all of those. I've sat in boardrooms where I've been the only female. It's been men, and they talk over me as I'm trying to get my point across. So it's been a very challenging journey. I've had to learn to bring the aggression when I need to, because men sometimes get aggressive in putting their point across. So I balance the femininity with the aggression. I'm aggressive when I need to be, because one of the things that I've realized in being a good team player and managing people, you need to show the soft side of things as well. You need, for them to be able to trust you. You shouldn't just be about the rod all the time. So yeah, I've been faced with a lot of criticism, people questioning my expertise, but it doesn't faze me. It doesn't faze me anymore. Thanks, Karen.
Thanks, Maria.
Yeah, thank you, Karen, for the question. I agree with Mpho, what she's saying, what she's experiencing. I think a lot of the male communities, society is so used to having females be street vendors, selling fat cakes, doing those kind of work, being hairstylists, and not necessarily trying to in like the way that we're trying to do. So they either, even if they like negotiating deals, because you're a woman that has come to this meeting, they'll try to downplay your offer so much that it's so ridiculous. So after a while, you just have to get an ally on your team, keep pushing, get thick-skinned. When you hear this negative comments and stuff, it's just water off a duck's back, really. You just have to keep going because you know what your vision is. Also, like obviously, when I used to do when I used to do my internships, I would work with males that are also from this, like the same level. Like we used to get paid if you're level 1 or first year, and you're a geology student, you get paid this much. That is the standard. But one day I came across the payments that me and another guy that was at the same year as me was being paid more, and I'm like, I don't understand. He also says, I don't understand. Like we're the same year, right? So that was, even as when you're doing internships, you were already so discriminated, and I don't understand why that is still like that. And that's one of the reasons why when I set up the management team, I was like, let me try to get all-female staff, not because of sexism in my part, but I just want to help women catch up as well. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, ladies. We say humandla, we stand together, we fix each other's crowns, and really it calls for us, like you said, Maria, to have thick skin and really just keep the end in mind. So thanks, ladies, for that. It's always, a very difficult journey for women entrepreneurs. Thanks for that wise advice from you. Now, Africa is known for its Ubuntu, and the word Ubuntu describes an African philosophy that places emphasis on being self through others. And it's a form of humanism which can be expressed in the phrases, I am because of who we all are. And in Zulu, it says, Ubuntu, Ubuntu, Kabantu. I hope I said that correctly. Now, I'd like to pose this question to Lukonga, and I'd like to speak about mentorship and the importance of having a mentor as a young entrepreneur starting up, or should you have a mentor throughout your process? What is the importance of that? Do you yourself have a mentor, or have you mentored young people? Can you perhaps maybe just talk about, or maybe give advice to young people on how to choose a mentor? And can you, the question I think to link up with that is have more than one mentor. Is that possible? Thanks, Lukonga. I'd like to hear from you.
Thanks, Karen. There's lots of questions in there.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Right. Look, I think the first thing is really to look at it as in creating an accountability and support system. And so when you talk about a mentor, as in refer to one person, you're probably limiting your options. One of the things I did when we started the business, I took a trip to Kenya and visited at that time was the most successful innovation hub, technology hub on the continent, which is the iHub. So I spent quite a bit of time there asking questions, and we've maintained the relationship over the next few years. And that was an amazing opportunity to be able to tap into someone who was much older than me, who would basically guide me. Some of the questions I had, he would just, for me, would be complicated, but for him, it was just a simple, sentence, which would get me thinking about, okay, the learning I needed to do to get to his level, but the access that I had made sure that I could skip so many years of learning and so many mistakes that I would have had to make if I didn't have access to him. So one of the things actually that stands out, I'm the youngest of my business partners, right? So they're all older than me. And so when you're looking at accountability and learning from others, bringing yourself in environments where you can be with people who are much older, who are much more experienced, is important in this journey. No matter how amazing or innovative or cool that you are, there's always someone else out there who knows better than you. And it's always important that you can, that you reach out to those people wherever they are, I've had the opportunity to connect with so many people on the continent that are a WhatsApp away. And that's important because I can be facing a challenge in Lusaka, but I can text someone and say, oh, this problem you probably faced 3 years ago, right? What did you do? And so it's important to create those systems and levels that are beyond just one person, but you're looking at people, you're looking at institutions, and in some cases, like for me right now, some of the advisory boards I'm on, I'm actually the youngest person. So I'm not only giving my opinion, but I'm sitting there and spending half the time listening to these people who are older than me and thinking to myself, how do I learn from them? So even when we are in these environments where we think we are smart, it's always good to listen first and speak later. So all those skills come into play in such environments so that you can learn the most from the people around you. But certainly find someone who's more experienced than you, who has more, who's sometimes older than you, and tap from them however you can. Maintain those relationships. But at the end of the day, be a nice person as well.
You're on mute, Corin.
Oh, yeah. Famous quote, you on mute. Thanks, guys. I think a question which I'm thinking about, we've heard you share your stories. We've heard you giving us advice on and the journey that you've walked. But I think so many times we forget, the mental health aspect of being an entrepreneur. Unlike people who have 9-to-5 jobs, they have structure. I don't think, listening to your stories, I was wondering, do you guys have time to sleep? It can be very, very stressful. And, sometimes you knock on doors and doors don't always open. And you also experience, they say as an entrepreneur, you fall 7 times and you stand up 8 times. So I would like to know, how do you guys make time to relax? How do you manage your time, deal with stress, things like that, and sometimes, making time for family can be a challenge. So let's talk about, how do you relax? What do you do to relax? I'd like to hear from each one, maybe just briefly. How do you relax? What advice would you give young people to manage their time better? I'll start with Maria. Thanks, Maria. I think you're on mute. So okay.
Thanks, Karen. I had been struggling with that, finding a balance and actually resting. Even yesterday, my mother was telling me, you need to sleep, my child, and rest. But I try to give myself a break now and again, not read so much, not research so much, because you can only be so productive if you do get some rest. But so I'm working on it, to be quite honest. But I've had a bit of a struggle with finding that balance before. But yeah, I'm taking breaks just now. I took a break this weekend, so I'm resting. Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks, Maria. Can we have Mpho?
Thanks, Karen. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thanks, Mpho.
Apologies, I got distracted there with a phone call. So what was the question? How do we balance stress and work life? I Netflix and chill. That's how I balance the stress. For me, honestly, having been in the professional, being a professional literally since I graduated, I was used to the 9-to-5. So it was a huge shift in now having to work. Well, I was working 8 hours, but now this is for myself. There's that drive. You literally need to motivate yourself and push yourself, because nobody's going to push you. I remember I was not used to the disappointment. For some reason, I thought when I knock on the door, the doors will automatically open. But yeah, they still haven't opened. So I almost literally fell into a depression state, because money's depleting. I'm not getting any jobs. How am I going to survive all of those questions and all of that stress? I started getting anxiety and I couldn't even sleep. So like I said, my husband has been in business for a very long time, so he sort of helped me deal with it, talked me through it. And sometimes I just take time, like I said, I just Netflix and chill and just try and not stress, and then start every day on a new slate. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you, Busa. I think you're on mute, Busa.
Yeah, hold on. Oh, there we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Thanks, Karen. Yeah, it's interesting to hear everyone's way of dealing with the mental health aspect of being an entrepreneur. I think definitely as you're knocking on those doors, one of the things I do is like I just make it out of habit, really. Like I'm just because out of 50 doors you knock on, sometimes you only need one yes. And that's all it is. You need out of 100 people you meet, you only need one person to believe in it, and whatever project you're working on takes off. So I always look at it in that way. And it's interesting talking to people who've come out of corporate and gone into entrepreneurship, because as you can see in my journey, I've never really had time in corporate, but I've always taken it really seriously to be able to put in the hours, but to understand that I need to rest. Which is something I realized also from my law degree. I saw a lot of people struggle to get their qualification because they just, they'll be sitting at a desk the whole day and then they're too burnt out. So burning out is something I understand can really happen. So I always make sure to relax. And I like to relax with friends. That's how I kind of de-stress, especially on weekends or even after work, for a drink or two. But the way I do it, I make sure when I really want to relax that I hang out with people who are actually not in my space at all. So I'll hang out with friends who are in theater or in music or in art, because I find myself, I have the bad habit of starting to talk about business when I sit with people who are also in business. And then I'm back at work again. So my mind is not switching off. But if I'm sitting and I'm talking to someone who's telling me about their acting career, that has nothing to do with what I do day to day. So I find that actually helps my mind really tune out and learn something completely different. At the same time, I'm just relaxed. So that's how I do it. I like to hang with friends and family.
Thanks, Busa. Let's hear from Lukonga before we wrap up.
Sure. Very good question. Before the pandemic, travel used to really help me balance, because I could get away from the office and travel outside, the country. Of course, I would be working, attending a conference, but being detached from a daily work environment was always very helpful, and I would travel quite a bit, almost every quarter. And now things are so different, and I have many more responsibilities. But one thing I always say around this work-life balance is, when you're starting a business, the pressure there when you are not 15, 20 employees is there. You have to get the work done. So there is a compromise there in the beginning that you have to make. You have to make sacrifices, right? As the business grows, you get more people on your team. As a founder, as an entrepreneur, the question that comes up is, are you setting the right systems in place and hiring the right people who can do the things that you used to do? That way it reduces the pressure on you for you to actually do other things. So I find myself now in a position where I can have better work-life balance, because I have more people on the team that do a lot more of the work that I used to do. But in the beginning, there is no choice. You are the company, so you have to be the marketing person, the accounting person, you have to be everything, and therefore you make sacrifices early on so that later on you can have a better work-life balance. So I thought I should bring that perspective as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I have so many questions lined up and I can ask you all questions all afternoon. Unfortunately, our time is busy running out, and I'd like to just, African entrepreneurship is central to Africa's future prosperity. And the biggest business opportunities in the coming decade will be created, they say, by Africans who start businesses, generate jobs and wealth, and capture growth opportunity. And they say that across Africa, necessity is the mother of invention. And this afternoon, you know, listening to your stories, have really just shown, you know, the using opportunities and recognizing and identifying opportunities. And not only that, just taking those opportunities and running with them. And that really is what is called innovation and really, so I would like you just to give us a final, just to end off, I'd like to just ask you maybe any final comments from your side, any final words of advice to maybe student entrepreneurs having a business idea and wanting to start, you know, their business. What advice would you give them? And yeah, I don't want to add on to the question because I always have this million of questions in my mind, but I'll just end it right there. I think just to round it off, just to hear from you, any final comments, you know, thank you so much. I think I'll start with Busa this time.
Thanks, Karen. Thank you so much. You know, in closing, I'll just say, to reiterate, I think, you know, just that cycle that I mentioned, you know, passion, opportunity, execution, that you can enter at any one of those points. I think, you know, even if as a student entrepreneur, you know, get in there and learn as you're in it. You know, expect to fall down the cliches that you'll always hear, but you know, in every time, any mistake, there's always a lesson learned, and always treat it as a lesson as you go forward, and you'll find that you will grow as you keep on going, as you keep your head down and put in the same work. You know, the same work you put in to get your qualification, put in that same work, you know, day in, day out into your business, and you'll find the rewards will come. Your dedication will speak for itself. Yeah, I think that's what I have in closing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those words, Busa. We'll call on Maria to say a final comments, to make a final comments. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Karen. I want to just add, your degree is relevant. I know that sometimes when you're working so hard and not passing as well as you would like, it becomes frustrating as well and you want to give up, but your degree is relevant and whatever you're learning will come in handy. Like I remember for me, we had this problem once and one day the solution just came to me like, oh my goodness, physical chemistry, page 1, level 3. You know, it will help you one way or the other. It might not be today, it might be 5 years from now, but just keep pushing and keep working hard. It's an exciting journey, and I wish you all the best. Just keep pushing and work hard.
Thank you, Maria. Let's hear from Lukonga.
It was actually a nice question there about how we apply the learnings in university in the context of entrepreneurship, and I will speak about that in closing comments. Is in that whatever you learn along the way, there are opportunities that provide themselves for you to apply that, and so never consider any sort of learning as being irrelevant, right? There will always be situations in your business where you will apply some of the things that you learned first year, second year, or just from a person on the street. So I think the general mindset should be that learn as much as you can, learn about everything that is possible, and always look for opportunities in what you are learning to apply that learning. And that way you can start a business like Busa. Very, very good example. You take what you learned as a lawyer, you apply it in a totally different sector. That is for me the real way of getting ahead in life, that there is no learning that is irrelevant. Everything becomes relevant as you walk the walk of life. Yeah.
Thanks, Lukonga. And last but not least, Mpho, thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen. In answering your question, I'd like to juxtapose it with a question that came through. I see someone asked if we have been exposed to formal entrepreneurship education or training. I wasn't, and that shouldn't be a train smash. I think the biggest lesson is in application or actually experiencing something. So I would say surround yourself with, even if you haven't gotten formal entrepreneurship training, so it's not a determining factor. Surround yourself with people who have been in the field for a couple of years now, who can share pearls of wisdom. And I think the biggest teacher is in experiencing some of the things yourself. We can tell you about things, but the actual application will teach you. And just try and get a mentor, as Lukonga said, and a lot of mentors who can help you along the journey. You will succeed. I mean, failure is not an option, and it shouldn't scare you. Dust yourself off and try again. Thanks, Karen.
And with those wise words, failure is not an option. Dust yourself off and try again. I'd like to end off today's session. Thank you all for attending. And I'd like to ask Anine to just do a vote of thanks. Thanks, Anine.
Thanks so much, Corin. Attendees, welcome and thank you for attending. My name is Anine Swanepoel from the Mandela International Office. On the screen, you will see the contact information of the Alumni Relations Office and the Mandela International Office. Please like our platforms, follow us, and keep in touch. You would have also probably seen on Memo the program for Africa Week. Please keep an eye out for the 2 remaining webinars, the CANRAD webinars. The one is this afternoon and the other one is tomorrow. On behalf of the office, we would like to thank our 4 panelists for agreeing to participate in this webinar. You are an inspiration, and we thank you for imparting your knowledge and experiences to our audience. I would also like to thank Corin Snyman for doing a great job in facilitating the webinar, and to Paul Geswind and from the Alumni Relations team, and Dr. Sava Holeta from the Mandela International Office. Thanks for the collaboration and all your hard work in making this webinar a success. And finally, I would like to thank the participants for taking the time to attend this webinar. I hope you found it helpful, and we hope that an entrepreneurial seed was planted for your future endeavors. And with that, we will end off. Thank you once again. We wish you all well.